Oh, hi. This week, it's skull sweater time, it's skull sweater time, it's skull sweater time. So in last week's video, I mentioned how one of my sketches I did like 6+ months ago still has not been created. Being the best month of the year, I felt extra inspired to make this one. And I'm like, letting myself honor my inner teenager, and I made this necklace earlier today, and just I'm thoroughly enjoying this renaissance I'm having. And it's okay to just wear skulls on things because we're all gonna die someday. This is not the direction this video needs to go. I did just cry about something because I was rewatching some scenes from Stranger Things 4. It's heartbreaking, but also just like so epic. I will keep this spoiler free, but even episode 1, there's just so much at stake and I'm so invested, and I well up when cool shit happens. Okay, yes, I knew what skull fabric I was going to be using, but I couldn't remember what the complementary fabric was, so I took out my little sketchbook and I remembered, thankfully, before I got into this, that I, after making this page, did find a better weight gray fabric to use, because the little swatch in the book is actually like a thin jersey, like double knit jersey, where the gray skull fabric is like a really lightweight fleece, like sweatshirt material. They're not so far apart from each other, but one is like t-shirt material and the other one is like jumper material. Also, that was aiming a little bit high. There we go. Look at me trying to use my 1.5 years of video classes that I took in high school, which was too many years ago. Yeah, let's not do that math. So yeah, at some point after I made this page, I had stumbled upon like a thicker weight but less matchy color gray. This one's more of like a charcoal, but I know the feeling of this being cohesive on the inside is going to be a lot more important than that little difference in shade and tone of the gray. And also, like, I just prefer wearing charcoal gray, so I'm probably going to get that much more wear out of this. Could say it's a gradient. Okay, so yeah, once I had like fully decided on my 2 fabrics I was going to use, because I cannot stop color blocking things. There's no way I would wear this particularly often if it was just the skull fabric for every part of it. I don't think it would look very good. I don't know, something about this fabric does not make me want to use it as like a full piece, only in like little sections. I think if the skulls were smaller and closer together, it would give a different effect. But anyway, that's just my design process. I had laid out the fabric nice and neat and then realized like, oh, now I need to use these mats to alter the pattern. And this is why I've been putting this off, is because I knew it was going to be a 2-step thing, because I had to lengthen half of the pattern pieces and then cut out the cardigan and make it. So it has taken me all day. It's about 5 p.m. right now, and I started about 9 a.m. Granted, I took some windows of time for about a half hour there to watch some bits of the first episode of Stranger Things. That is not a show I can like have on in the background because I get too sucked up into it. Oh, it's so good though. So I started rewatching the IT Crowd. I don't know if y'all like that show, but that was a very formative one for me, and it's like comfort food. So that's probably going to be on in the next couple weeks while I'm working on listing more Etsy stuff, and just when I'm working on projects. I usually just film all of the clips you're seeing laid over here, like the B-roll, while I'm listening to podcasts or just have my headphones on and kind of like doing my thing, because I find that it's much easier to get the project done and like stay on track with what I'm doing and be a little bit more succinct and like take notes as I'm going to tell you all the steps I'm doing and just get better angles than when I'm sitting showing you the thing, doing the step, showing you the update to the thing. I think things get a little more lost doing it that way, and you don't see as much of the actual like garment making. So I like how my videos have been going the past like year or two. Has it been longer than that since I've been doing this style? I don't know. I like the change. And it also lets me have more like media consumption time, which is also really nice because I'm often just in this space, and like right now I have to have it completely quiet. Laundry can't be going, dishwasher can't be going, vacuum can't be going, and I can't handle that quiet when I'm not actively like speaking to the camera like this, you know? Or it's fine if I'm doing a live stream, which reminds me, I did try live streaming earlier. I had my headphones on so you couldn't hear anything I was listening to. I actually think I was listening to definitely not a bootleg of Moulin Rouge, the musical. I did it on my Sewing Nerd Studios Instagram, and for the time being, I might do that once in a while over there. I don't know why, but it always feels like way more of a production to do like a YouTube live stream, because I want to like chat with y'all and hang, where I was doing it on my business Instagram because I wasn't really like talking to the camera, and it also wasn't much of me in frame. It was just showing you like the work I was doing, because I find those very satisfying to have on in the background. My friend Sam used to do painting videos in the morning, like painting live streams where he would do a watercolor, and sometimes his cat will curl up in his arms and you didn't see more than like just his hands and then sometimes Charlie the cat. And I found it very helpful if I had stuff I had to do in the morning where I could have something playing, but especially when I'm editing, if someone is sitting and listening to like instrumental music, or it's just the sound of like paintbrushes on paper or machines going, and they're not talking or listening to music that has words in it or have like a show on in the background, that's what I use to like body double, and I find that super, super helpful to stay on track. It just like keeps me focused on editing, because sometimes that can get like a little tedious depending on how long the video is and what the project is. But I will say it actually helped me on my end doing the live stream, because it did keep me on task, because I was like, well, if I'm just sitting and dicking off, A, I can't use my phone because that's what I'm using to live stream with, and B, it holds me more accountable because someone could be popping in to check, where I don't know if anybody was actually watching because again I wasn't looking at the screen, but I think that kind of helped me keep my flow going, where usually Mondays, which is the day I'm filming, I almost always film the project on a Monday. It's like a nice reset after the previous week, and I feel the most like together. Like I did a bunch of accounting this morning, because when you have your own small business, you also have to be your own bookkeeper, and it's just the pits. And then I also sent out a bunch of Patreon mail, which I love doing that, especially the mail time perk and the custom shit perk. Those two tiers are my favorite thing I get to do every month. But I always underestimate how much time it takes. I guess that's part of why I'm currently sitting here and it's 5 o'clock, is because I also did all that stuff. Man, this is the thing I do to myself, and why I'm so hard on me is because I forget some of those things, because that was like a couple hours of time this morning. So I probably didn't actually start on this until like afternoon. So that's actually not that wild. And that includes like starting the pattern drafting, cutting everything out, and then sitting and sewing stuff. I did a better job at keeping up with my task list than I'm giving myself credit for today. Okay, anyway, back to the actual sewing shenanigans. I cleared off the grid mats, the self-healing cutting mats. There we go. And whenever I'm doing pattern adjustments, especially if I'm just like adding some length to something and I need even lines everywhere, I really like using see-through paper. This is like artist tracing paper. I got a big roll of it sometime last year or the year before. I don't know, sometime recently. But tissue paper would work for this too, or like butcher's paper, something you can see through. And it gives me like a nice straight edge to line up any of the pattern pieces that have a straight edge, and then also measure out like that block of space that I'm adding. So there's the front panels, the back panel, and the like collar piece. That's like the trim that goes around the opening of the cardigan. Those all needed to get lengthened because the sleeves don't interact with any of those seams. And I've actually already lengthened the cuffs, but again, those are kind of like isolated from almost everything else, so you don't have to adjust anything else to make the cuffs longer. So the sleeves have been a good length because of the cuffs. Not that it didn't fit, but I just wanted the bottom of the cardigan to hit a little bit lower. So I've been wanting to do this for a long time, and with the number of these that I've made, I definitely should have done this sooner, because it wasn't that complicated of an adjustment to the pattern. It just takes a little time, and like you have to pay attention to what you're doing, and I just didn't want to put that much thinking effort in. But today was the day, thankfully. Yeah, it was just a matter of those 3 pieces I mentioned, finding the adjustment lines, because when I initially traced these patterns out, I did mark where the like lengthen, shorten points were, because that's usually on most patterns that you find. Even the ones I've self-drafted for myself. I guess I don't necessarily need to mark, but there is generally like an obvious spot that will be easiest, need the least damage control to lengthen. I almost never have to shorten things because I am forever tall. Yeah, I just took a ruler and drew a line across. Granted, I could have drawn this line when I first traced the pattern, but for some reason that felt like too much work at the time. Even though if I were to use it, I will always have to draw across it. I digress. Then I just cut straight across there, and then I laid out the scrap pieces of this tracing paper that I have. Once I had that laid out, I taped the 2 pieces 2 inches apart because that's how much I wanted to add to this. I have not actually tried this on yet, so I don't know if this was the correct length. Once I explain the steps, we're gonna do a little try on together and assess the job that I did. And yeah, obviously adjusting the collar piece was the easiest because it's a very narrow strip, where when you do anything like the front and back pieces that have these angles to them and you add some distance there, you have to like remake that angle. And I always get in my head about this part, but especially because this is a knit, it's gonna be fine. It's a little, not baggy, but it's not super fitted. Okay, I got cold. This is not the thing that I made. It's an old thrifted flannel. We're gonna get to the sweater, which I should put on because that's gonna be warmer, but let's get through the rest of the steps first. I don't even have that many notes because I just have like one clip of me sewing the thing, but the specific things I did for this were the pattern hacking bits, and then yeah, the other thing that I'm definitely not forgetting was, oh, when I was laying out the skull fabric, because it is a repeating pattern and the skulls are so big and they're so spread apart, it's gonna look weird if stuff was like off center. So I had to be super intentional with the cutting I did. So I did make a point to fold the fabric so that the center line of all the skulls, first off, were facing the right way. Like I couldn't be cutting this upside down because it is directional fabric, but also just that way they'd be down the center back. I'm very glad I did that. I think it looks very good. I'm very proud of myself because I'm not usually good about taking the time to do, not pattern matching, but just the fussy cutting. Now I did cut out the front pieces at the same time, and I think they're close as far as how I had stuff lined up, but listen, we can strive for symmetry, right? But much like our eyebrows amongst other parts of us, they're sisters, not twins. So yes, front and back panels are skull fabric, everything else is gray. All the other color blocking stuff I've done recently, the sleeve has been a different color than the cuff, and the cuff has been the color of the front and back panels, but I thought it would look kind of silly having the skulls on the cuff bits. I was trying to see if there was a big enough chunk of just the plain gray that the skulls are on, minus a skull, but there's not enough spacing in between, so couldn't make it work. I'm okay with how this came out. And yeah, that was it as far as the prep steps. I didn't have to press any of this because it's nice lightweight fleece and it's not super creasy. I'm actually really surprised how not creased this was with how I had everything folded, and having to do the specific folding I did, it was a different line than where I had it folded while I've been storing it for however long it's been in my fabric bins. Yeah, it was nice not having to press any of this. I did do a little bit of top stitching just to keep the seams going a certain direction, because again, I get a little bit of like some sensory troubles, especially with like the cuffs. If there's a big chunky seam and I go to put my arm through the sleeve and the cuff seam allowance wants to like tuck in around my wrist and that's the tightest part, no. So I always top stitch when I can. Sometimes stuff is just too bulky to make this happen, but I will top stitch so the seam allowance is toward the sleeve rather than the cuff. Just, it's gonna sit nicer. See the littlest bit of top stitching there. And yeah, I do like the fact that the sleeve and the cuff are the same color. I think it looks nice. I am pleased with that design choice. Another thing is I'm trying to be less self-conscious about my eye for things. Like I am trying to be nicer to myself and give some credit to having like a sense of style. A recent therapy session had one of those moments where I said something out loud and my therapist went, not that I was feeling judged or anything, and it didn't feel unkind, her reaction, but she's like genuine shock on her face with something I said, and that was that I didn't feel like I had my own sense of style, which now that we've kind of talked it through, it's just that I never felt like I could voice that I like the style that I wear, or like letting myself wear the things that I really want to wear, but I used to think were like too cool for me. They're good on someone else. Like the outfit I would put together. The example I gave is if I was designing a paper doll that wasn't me, this is the outfit I would put together and this would be like my dream closet for that thing. And she's like, so why can't that be applied to your actual body? So in many facets of my life, trying to build confidence in aspects, but there's something vulnerable about saying you like things, I guess, is what it comes down to. And the way I fangirl over other people's work and things that they make that I enjoy, why I can't do the same thing with the things I make, we're not gonna let that happen anymore. We're gonna keep going in this direction and just enjoy things God forbid. Speaking of, I don't know that I will actually have much downtime because I have some lofty plans. I don't know that I'll get my Steed Bonnet stuff done before Halloween. As far as like posting a video, my plan is to work on that project in the next couple weeks, but this is going up on Friday the 14th. Next Friday, the 21st, that's going to be my no video week for this month. So after today, I will be back in 2 weeks. So on the 28th, that's when the next video will be up. And because it is the 28th of October, and that is a couple days before the 31st, it will be a last minute Halloween costume video. If you have any suggestions, let me know. I've been building a list for basically the whole year, but there's not that many items on there because it's a lot to think of, and like I never repeat any of them, so I'm kind of always surprised that I end up getting a handful of things together, and I don't even remember what's on the list, so hopefully I still think that they're funny enough to make happen. I guess I just did think of one. I think I can make that work. Okay, anyway, brain is going elsewhere. As I said, it's hard keeping it in here. It keeps wanting to go everywhere else. But yes, just a heads up. No video next Friday. We'll be back in 2 Fridays. In the meantime, let's finally try this on, shall we? Oh, it feels so soft. I haven't been touching it the whole time I've been recording, and I forgot how soft it is. There's a reason I picked out the fabric. Oh, this is really nice. And it's lightweight too, because we're in early stages of fall. Like, foliage is fucking phenomenal right now. Something about the temperature happening the past 2 weeks or so, like, it is peak. But I genuinely like had my breath taken away by a tree I walked by. Is this a reaction other people have to the outside? Because I really enjoy this time of year, and I feel very spoiled living in New England because it just, certain years it's like everything goes from green to like kind of mushy brown. Everything's this kind of like burnt orange color, and it happens too quickly. You don't enjoy the interim shades. This is like A+. Anyways, this is what we got. Okay. Oh man. This is hitting at the perfect spot. So here's the thing, right? When it was 2 inches shorter, it was hitting like kind of right above. I'm wearing like high-waisted jeans too. The bottom of this sweater was right at the top of my pants, and I didn't love that. So this is definitely better option into it, and all the spacing. Oh, I love this so much. Okay, I'll do the wrap up while I show you some like better footage that I'll take later this week, but obviously before I put the video up. This is something that I'm absolutely gonna wear all the time. The sleeves are like the perfect length, and I can tuck my hands into them, and it's so cozy. It's not super heavy though. I'm trying to like make my closet be things that I get excited about, and this, like, I don't want to take this off now. I'm definitely going to wear this to work tomorrow, meaning other work. I worked here today, but sometimes I work other places. And yeah, this is just the right amount of cozy. Like, it's really overcast and cool. There's not like a ton of breeze or anything. It's not like scary windy as it gets sometimes, but this is like enough to brace me against any rustling I may encounter. And I can't believe this is a thing I get to own. Like, I don't buy myself clothes very often. Definitely something that I think I would have maybe seen in a store and just like kept coming back to and like thinking about. I could see myself having recurring thoughts about this type of garment, but I made it and I have it. Like, this is mine. Listen, I am able to purchase fabric like this. Like, I have the budget to even be buying myself materials, as well as spend the time here in the shop that I get to and have the thread and the machinery and all of the tools available to make the things because of everybody over on Patreon. Like I said, sending out the physical perks is always my favorite part of the month, and I hope you all are getting the love I'm putting into them, because I do take a lot of time with them, and it means so goddamn much that any of you hang out here to start with, but also that some of y'all support me in a big enough way that like this gets to be one of my jobs, and is that not the coolest thing in the world? So thank you for that. I'm gonna go make some cozy food. I don't know what that means, but there's gonna be casserole dishes involved. And puppy Snuggles, he's been asleep on the couch in the other room this whole time, so he would not let me extract him from the blanket pile. But it is occurring to me that I should definitely make him some last minute costumes. All right, the gears are turning. I'm gonna brainstorm this. If you have suggestions for last minute Bert costumes, or just Bert costumes in general, let me know, because that would be quite enjoyable to make. All right, I will see you all back here in 2 weeks on the 28th, that Friday. Thank you so much for hanging out. And then I completely spaced out. How? We're barely even into the video. Okay, obviously I did make it outside to show you the full thing. The reason I'm in a different outfit than I am in this clip here, and why that one is indoors, is because right as I was about to walk outside with my tripod and like ready to shoot those shots is when a neighbor started walking up the driveway. So I ran and fled and tried to film inside, but I didn't want to film inside. Felt like that was half-assing it. So we out here doing the thing.